A quick disclaimer before getting into this video is that this is from Surrender at 20, but they were unable to get into game and the abilities have not been officially previewed yet for Samira, the new champion. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video, is Samira versus JINX. Basically, by looking at the kit that Surrender at 20 was able to kind of data mine, and then talk about how JINX might, play against this, because even though this champion looks like they actually could probably flex into other lanes even, of course as a marksman, people are definitely first and foremost going to be playing them as an AD carry. And in case you don't know, this patch was pushed a little bit oddly, which is also why it's been a little bit difficult for them to obtain the official kind of kit and stuff like that. But we're just going to go into it and then kind of talk about JINX and how she will deal with these kind of abilities. With the first ability, or I guess the passive for Samira, being Daredevil Impulse. So Samira builds a combo by hitting attacks or abilities unique from the previous hit. Each one increases her style from E to S grade, 6 total. Samira gains X% movement speed per grade. Samira's attacks in melee range deal an additional X magic damage, increased up to X based on the target's missing health. Samira's attacks against enemies affected by immobilizing effects knock up for half a second and deal damage over 6 separate attacks. Samira dashes into range against targets slightly outside of her attack range. Now, relative also just to the champion period, where the whole S rank would be appearing above people's heads, that apparently had to do and was triggered by if you used every ability in your kit, like before taking out an enemy champion or something like that. Relative to how JINX would play against this specifically, this is just kind of more how Samira operates, I guess, is by the grades and stuff doing different things based on how many unique attacks she is doing. So in melee range, which hopefully if you're JINX, you're never really in melee range, of course, the magic damage might not even be all that relevant, but of course AD carries do tend to be somewhat squishy against magic because they don't really scale a lot of good magic resist. So keep that in mind. If for some reason she is closing the gap on you, I wouldn't say just run and just completely abandon a team fight, but at the same time they will be doing quite some damage. It looks like X magic damage, and there's also the X movement speed upgrade actually if she gets the S rank grade, I imagine, because it's a movement speed increase per grade. So at E rank, probably not that great. At S rank, probably very great. And for the record, her base movement speed is actually 335. So there's already 10 more than JINX too. So she might actually be able to close the gap on you instead. Never mind, that could be a possibly bad thing to watch out for. Samira's attacks against enemies affected by immobilizing effects knock up for 0.5 seconds. Most likely if you're JINX and you're already hit by a immobilizing effect, you're probably just dead anyways, and so this might not matter too much. Also, the passive in general might be one that's kind of a iffy what if scenario based kind of a thing is what I'm basically saying. Flare, meanwhile, which is Samira's Q, fires a shot, dealing X physical damage to the first enemy hit. If this ability is cast towards an enemy in melee range, Samira will instead slash with her sword, dealing X physical damage. Either hit can critically strike for 25% bonus damage. If cast during Wild Rush, which we haven't seen that one yet, Samira will strike all enemies in her path upon completion. So it looks like this one's more of a situational, but not like the first one. It's more like a, hey, if they're in range of you, you'll fire a shot instead. But if they're in melee range, you actually slash with the sword, which is kind of interesting because they do like have a sword on their back, and that's like a way to like put that mechanic on a kit without it feeling like maybe too all over the place. It's just basically, hey, if you're at range, they'll shoot at you. If you're close up, they'll use a sword. Kind of like much like in real life or in movies or things like that too, how that works with people in combat. That one makes sense. Again, as JINX, hopefully you're at range with the rocket launcher, especially as the game goes on and you scale that ability. Each hit can crit though for 25% bonus damage, not even for full 50%, so that's kind of neat, I guess. JINX's rockets do 10% bonus damage, by the way, so you might want to trade with rockets if it looks like she's going to try and trade with you with the Q, just to see if you can get the extra damage. If you have crit as well, you'll be doing the 10% extra crit damage with the rocket form, so there's that as well. They do have a little bit of an edge, of course, because if they are in melee range combined with the passive, they're probably really messing you up, and it looks like they'll have more than enough damage to take you out, especially if they have S rank going for them. So, what are their W? Blade Whirl. Samira slashes around for her, or she slashes around herself basically for 1 second, damaging enemies twice for X physical damage and destroying any enemy missiles that enter the area. So enemy missiles are like projectiles and stuff like that too. Like think what Yasuo wind wall blocks. Those tend to be things that are like considered missiles, like Nami's ultimate getting clipped and even stuff like that. So I imagine if that's the case, this kind of can cleanse or destroy incoming projectiles, which might be a bit of an issue if you are playing as Jinx, because in this scenario, you've beaten up Samira. She's on the run and you ult with the Super Mega Death Rocket. She might be able to use this move to basically slice the Super Mega Death Rocket and kind of waste your ultimate, and kind of negate you kind of wanting to use that to try and either execute her, or even sometimes when you maybe target an enemy because you're trying to hit someone near an enemy, like they're grouped up and you're trying to hit somebody because the AoE will kill the surrounding people. She might be able to negate all of that, so you might actually want to make sure you're auto-attacking instead. Those don't count as missiles, by the way. Auto-attacks are not things, even though Yasuo's wind wall can block auto-attacks, not in this case. In this case, when we're talking about enemy missiles, they mean abilities and things like that. So Super Mega Death Rocket might get voided by this, but at the same time, if you've beaten up a Samira where she's that low in health, she might be retreating as well, and so you've still kind of won. And you might want to play around, though, making sure you have Zap and your auto-attacks and things like that, more relied on those with this. Now, if she's used the W, by all means, blow her away with the Super Mega Death Rocket. But from my understanding, if I'm reading this correctly and what registers as missiles, this could negate your R, so don't always be so quick to throw out your R unless you're sure the W has been used. It does have a 28-second cooldown at rank 1, and even at rank 5, it is a 20-second cooldown. So if there's some way you can bait that out, your support or something like that in laning phase, especially early, look for situations like that. Those are probably going to be the opportunities you can use the ultimate. I could be overplaying this, but like as a Jinx channel, it's my job to be overplaying this, right? So that is part of why maybe I'm a bit more pessimistic than would actually be reality for this champion. So there we go, here's Wild Rush, it's on the E. So Samira dashes through an enemy or ally, slashing enemies she passes through and gaining attack speed. Killing an enemy champion refreshes this ability's cooldown. So I think the only reason why you dash through allies here is just because there is, pathway blocking. We've seen it with minion waves. Playing as Jinx, have you ever gotten excited in a minion wave? You kind of like spam around in a certain direction or run into a wall even because you're getting blocked by your own people. I think this dash is just like a, hey, we don't want that to happen necessarily, you're good to go. Slashing enemies, if you're passing through, you gain attack speed, and if you kill them, you refresh this ability's cooldown, so it's a reset mechanic, but only if you kill an enemy. So, like most reset mechanics, of course, except for like Tristana's E for some reason, you have to kill the enemy at least. I don't think that would necessarily feel good if she like kills your front line and starts slicing her way towards your back line. It probably will feel great for them, especially if they kill someone, it's like a really risky play to go in on, and it wasn't you as the Jinx, then you could save your Flame Chomper because they won't be able to reset this ability. So look for them to use this dash preemptively, kind of in the same way like a Urgot will ult early or a Pyke will ult early and someone heals so it doesn't actually kill them. Save your Flame Chompers basically for after they dash, even if they dash into you, honestly, because as long as they don't kill you when they dash into you, if you save your Flame Chompers till afterwards, you might be able to CC them as well and prevent them from going out. So that really risky play just kind of became their in play, and this is probably more effective in team fighting than in the laning phase. In the laning phase, you should be able to kind of back away with flash and stuff before they can really dash into you. But again, that ranking system is an issue. So S rank and stuff that might be really fast and flashy, and it might just be all over the place, it feels like. So you want to be kind of aware of this ability if it's been used and stuff, much like the W it looks like as well for Jinx's safety sake and her immobility that Jinx will have to contest with against a champion that looks like they're going to be pretty mobile. Last but not least, of course, is the R, Inferno Trigger. Samira can only use this ability if her current style rating is S. So first, like right off the bat, she cannot use her ultimate unless she has an S rank. So even at A rank, she cannot use this ability. She's down one ability basically, which that might be beneficial to a lot of champions actually. But Samira unleashes a torrent of shots from her weapons, wildly shooting all enemies surrounding her 10 times over 2 seconds, each shot dealing X physical damage and applying lifesteal. Each shot can also critically strike. So this kind of reminds me in the video preview of like Katarina's ultimate. So like if a Samira and a Katarina wanted to go in on an enemy team in an opportune moment, they could combine to mess people up. I think we've all had that one game of Katarina, even if it was ARAM, where we jumped into what we thought was a pretty decent, ultimate situation. We even got the full ult off and everything, but it just didn't feel like it did a lot of damage. Katarina with Samira, they both going in like that, they'll cover each other's lack of damage even early, I imagine. And no one here is probably going to be playing the Samira Katarina combo all that much anyways, but just on a side note, basically if you're playing against this combo and the Katarina roams down, run for your life or even buy stopwatch, right? Like people complain about stopwatch, just ruin their day with stopwatch, but just in general, it's called Inferno Trigger, so it's kind of like Dante with Devil Trigger and stuff like that. That's kind of interesting. But a lot of their kit is also physical damage. There was magic damage in the passive, and that's because like every champion has like one ability that kind of does the opposite of what their main abilities do. That's just for off meta sake. Like Riot's even commented on that. That's just for off meta sake, and so if you can do some creative builds, especially in the for fun modes, back when those used to be more of a thing on the weekends, of course. So that's why even Jinx on her Flame Chompers, they're magic damage instead of physical damage. One is because if every ability in say Jinx's kit, we'll just use her as an example, was all physical damage, that means the entire combo, the Flame Chompers, the Zap, the Rockets, everything would all do massive amounts of damage, especially on a champion like Jinx as she scales up. And so her damage would seem insane because of the addition of the Flame Chomper damage. Can you imagine if that was physical damage as well? Especially if those could crit or something wild like that. She would probably have to be nerfed every so often because of how wild her hyperscaling damage could be. So by making it magic damage, you allow it to still be a damaging ability, but also be something that probably will never have to be nerfed overall because it doesn't really add that much. It's more for the CC, but also for a fun build, for fun like modes. You can build like an on-hit magic crit mix thing, and those can do more damage that way, or you can just do AP Jinx where the Flame Chompers do like all of the damage basically, but that really is all of the damage. That's why things like that exist. So with Samira, it's no different. It looks like her passive does magic damage, probably to kind of enable things like that when people probably play around with, oh, she does a lot of melee stuff. Maybe we'll build like Nash's Tooth and Lichbane and try to do this weird magic, kind of like when, what's his name? Silas came out and people kind of did a hybrid melee but also tankish build. That's probably the reason why they do stuff like that, by the way. But in this particular case, this ability can only be used if they have an S rank. So I don't know if like bullying the champion will prevent them from getting to an S rank more often. Because it's basically builds a combo from attacking, from hitting attacks or abilities unique from the previous hit. So she would have to like auto attack like E or auto attack W. I don't know if auto attacks would reset it in between, or basically it's like auto attack and then you have like 4 abilities and you gotta wait for a bit. But it looks like the ultimate won't, just because they hit 6, the ultimate won't necessarily be available. Possibly. It depends on how that works, but it could be useful then if you have a support, for example, that also can peel for you pretty well, be it a Janna or something, or maybe a Thresh with the Lantern to just kind of get away, because it looks like this is an ability you use in a certain area. Like you kind of go to a certain area and use this ability. It's not like a Lucian ult where it's just kind of around you in all directions as you move for, you know, 2 seconds. And it also is only 2 seconds, so if you can also snare them with the Flame Chompers, that would probably be, basically the Flame Chompers is going to be your friend against a champion like Samira, and all the things they want to do, right? They did that change to the Flame Chompers way back when, where dashing over them kind of stops you now. You can't do that anymore. You can't just hop over them and everything like that. So even using the Flame Chompers and kind of like a wall to kind of protect you from the kind of things that Samira kind of wants to do, looks like it'll be very useful. But in the comment section down below, what do you think about this champion, and specifically how Jinx will have to deal with playing against this champion? But that's all from this video from me. So thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification, the actual subscribe button. But I don't know which video will be next, because life's gonna have a lot of kinks. So until next time, take care. GG, get jinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly.